You can now play the early access version of Manafields with full online multiplayer for free on itch.io. It works on desktop browsers and on Android mobiles. You can create an army list of troops and heroes, pick from one of the 4 launch factions, lock your list in, and then create or join a game. In case you haven't seen it yet, Manafields is a 1v1 fantasy wargame. You can think of it as a combination of tabletop wargames like Warhammer and online chess. The aim of the game is to be the first player to reach a 12-point lead. You score points each turn by securing objectives. You also score an extra point if your general is on an objective that you control. And if you kill the enemy general, you gain an instant 6 points. Players deploy their units in secret and then roll off to see who takes the first turn. On each of your turns you receive 3 order points, which you can use to issue orders to your units. In this video I'll quickly catch you up on some of the changes that have happened since my last video, and then I'll run you through what a typical game of Manafields looks like. Over on the Discord we're also getting ready to run our first tournament, so if you're interested in some friendly competition and in maybe appearing on some live streams and YouTube videos, come join the server. I've put the link in the description. The Discord also has a looking for game channel, which is a great way to organize games with others, and if you have any feedback on the game or any bugs to report, there are channels for that stuff too. I've added quite a few things to the game since my last video. You are now able to see your opponent's mouse moving on the board during games. There are now notices at the top of the screen that give helpful reminders of rules as you play and fill you in on the actions your opponent's considering on their turns. The game log works now, showing you a full history of all the orders issued and the points scored on each turn. When units die, they now leave a skull behind for a short amount of time. Cavalry units have been buffed. Charging in a straight line can now deal up to 4 damage, depending on how many squares they move. March orders have been discounted from 3 order points and 1 morale to just 1 order point and 1 morale, helping you to keep all of your units active throughout the game. I'm currently working on adding the ability for players to upgrade their troops during list building. My hope is that these troop levels are going to add much more depth and creativity to the list building process. Come try it out with us at manafields.itch.io/alpha. This is a game I played a few days ago with a mate of mine. He was playing the elves, and he bought an archer heavy list. He's got 8 units of archers, and he chose the cleric as his general for a free heal each turn, whereas I chose the undead. So I brought 3 drummers for that extra mobility, hoping to maximize the number of zombies I could make throughout the game. In deployment, I spread my army over all 3 objectives with a drummer behind each group of troops, whereas my mate put all of his units into 2 groups on the rightmost objectives, knowing that elves have the ability to teleport later in the game, and that's how he would grab the 3rd objective once he needed it. We rolled off for priority, and my mate won the roll-off, so he took the first turn. He started off by issuing 2 march orders, and then gave a move order to an archer to move them into the middle and score 1 point for having 1 objective. On my turn, I used my drummer's free heroic ability order to move cavalry and infantry up in the middle. I used a march order to move my entire army up 1 square. Then I used a move order to push a cavalry unit onto the objective on the right. I wanted to start scoring on this objective before he was going to dominate it. I scored 1 point this turn for having 1 objective. On his second turn, he moved a wizard onto the right objective and some archers up next to him. It's always good to put some troops next to your heroes because that protects them from being shot. He then used the wizard's heroic ability to push my cavalry unit off the objective. This turn, he scored 2 points for holding 2 objectives. On my second turn, I moved a cavalry unit onto the left objective to start scoring on it. Then I used my drummer's free heroic ability to move cavalry up in the middle and my drummer up behind him. Again, I'm putting my heroes next to troops in order to protect them from shooting, especially against my mate's list, which was full of archers. I then used a move order to charge that cavalry in the center, dealing 4 impact damage. Then immediately I gave a fight order to that cavalry against the archers in the middle and dealt exactly 4 damage, which was what I needed to finish off that archer's unit. I scored 2 points this turn for holding 2 objectives. On my mate's third turn, he issued a shoot order targeting the cav in the middle, but he dealt 0 damage. He then gave a move order to his infantry and then fought with them. Remember, infantry are the only units that can fight diagonally. His infantry dealt 7 damage to my cavalry, leaving 1 remaining. He scored 1 point for holding 1 objective. On my third turn, I issued the free drummer heroic order from my general to move my general up onto the objective and then pull the cavalry down away from him. This is not only so that I could protect my general from shooting, but also to start healing the cavalry. Because when you have a hero on an objective, everything on that objective is going to heal 1 HP each turn. I then gave a march order to my army, moving everyone up, and then used move orders to move my archer unit up behind my general, and then move cavalry up here on the left, ready to charge into infantry if he were to advance onto the middle of the objective. I scored 3 points this turn, 2 for the objectives that I controlled, and an extra 1 for having my general on an objective that I controlled. On my mate's 4th turn, he issued a move order to his archers, getting them to move up in the middle to threaten my general, but of course I had my general protected by having troops near him. My opponent then spent 2 order points to issue a shoot order to the archer unit that just moved, and they shot the cavalry dead. My opponent scored 1 point this turn for holding 1 objective. On my 4th turn, I accidentally skipped a turn with a mistaken button press, which is something I'll be fixing, but I did score 3 points this turn, 2 for the objectives I hold, 1 for having a general on one of those objectives. In my opponent's 5th turn, he issued a march order to his whole army, then he moved his cleric general onto the center objective, and moved his war master up into the center as well. You can see here that the war master is protected by the archers on the right, but the cleric general was left open for shooting. On this turn, my opponent scored 3 points, 2 for the objectives he controlled, and an extra 1 for having his general in the middle. On my 5th turn, I used my drummer's free order to move my general up and the archers behind. This is not only to contest the center, but also to give +1 to hit to my archers, because they were about to shoot at his general. I spent 2 order points to shoot with them at his general, dealing 8 damage, so there was 2 HP remaining on that cleric. I then used a move order to move some infantry up into the center beside my general, just in case the War Master was going to come up and attack. Notice now that the center objective is contested because we have an equal number of units each. This means that nobody gets any points from it. I scored 1 point this turn for the 1 objective that I owned. On my mate's 6th turn, he used a move order to get his archers to move down in the center next to the cleric to protect him from shooting. He then used a shoot order to shoot the infantry next to my general, dealing 9 damage, so there's 3 HP remaining on my infantry. Then he did another shoot order on my cavalry on the right, dealing 8 damage, so 2 HP remaining on my cavalry down there. My opponent scored 1 point this turn for holding 1 objective. On my turn, I moved my infantry right up into his general for a swing. I gave him a fight order, and we got 3 out of 4 dice through on the cleric, killing my mate's general for an instant 6 points. And because I have a hero within 4 squares of where the general died, that cleric came back as a zombie under my control, which gummed up the archers that he had there at the back. I then used a shoot order to shoot at his archers on the right, dealing 8 damage, which is an insta-kill. And again, my hero was in range to turn that unit into a zombie. I scored 9 points this turn, 2 for objectives, 1 for having my general on the objective, and then 6 for killing his general. On my opponent's 7th turn, his War Master killed the infantry unit as revenge for the death of his general. He then issued a shoot order to an archer at the back, which shot off one of the zombies, and then attempted another shoot order with a different set of archers. On this turn, my opponent scored 1 point for holding 1 objective. On my 7th turn, my archers shot at the War Master since he was no longer protected by troops. I did 4 damage, leaving 8 HP remaining on the War Master. I then used my drummer's free heroic move to move himself into combat with the War Master and to move the archers up behind him, again for that shooting protection. I issued a fight order, dealing 4 damage to the War Master, leaving 4 HP remaining. Now at this point I did consider fighting with my zombie on the right to try and finish off the War Master, but I would only get 2 dice, and I would need 4s and 5s both times. So instead I chose to give a march order to my entire army. I scored 1 point this turn for holding 1 objective. On my opponent's 8th turn, he issued a fight order with his War Master against my general, but unfortunately he dealt 0 damage. I got very lucky here. If he had killed my general, he would have gained 6 points and it would have been a massive swing. My opponent then issued a shoot order. His archers shot my archers and insta-killed them, meaning my general was no longer protected from shooting. His archers in the middle tried to shoot at my general now that he was open, and dealt 4 damage. I had 6 HP remaining on my general. My opponent scored 1 point this turn for holding 1 objective. Then on my 8th turn, I issued a fight order from my drummer general versus his War Master, dealing 4 damage, so there was 2 HP remaining on his War Master. I then used a move order to move my infantry up behind my general. Then I used my drummer general's free heroic ability to move the infantry unit up into combat with the War Master, but also keep him beside my general for protection from shooting. I issued a fight order to my infantry and he dealt 8 damage to the War Master, killing him. I scored 3 points this turn, 2 for objectives and 1 for having my general on an objective, which brought me to 24 points and a 12-point lead, so the undead won the game. This was a really fun game, heaps of exciting moments. I definitely got really lucky a few times when my opponent tried to kill my general. That would have made a massive difference, and his ability to teleport later on would have helped him to catch up on points. So I definitely got lucky, but it was heaps of fun. I hope you enjoy Manafields. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Come join the Discord. We'll see you there.